Dreams of all sizes. When I was a kid and I found out that Marilyn Monroe had married Arthur Miller, I thought, well, it's about time that somebody realized that the most beautiful women should be marrying writers. I was only disappointed that nobody had told me before. My cousin had a poster of Marilyn Monroe in her room. She was Iranian on her father's side and white on her mother's side. Do you know who she was married to? I said to her. Joe DiMaggio, she said. After him, I said. Who? Arthur Miller. He wrote Death of a Salesman. Oh yes, that's pretty important, don't you think? She was married to another guy before then. She was? Okay, a beautiful woman wasn't going to know right away that she ought to be marrying a writer. It was going to take her some time to figure it out. I was going to have to be patient. Those poor baseball players, I thought, they didn't know what was coming. I didn't have anything against baseball players. I used to go out in my backyard and practice leaping over the fence to rob guys of a home run. But even the best catch in the world was something you did by yourself. A good book had everybody in it. It had her in it, the woman who was deciding between marrying a baseball player or a writer. So why wouldn't she pick the guy who had been paying attention to her all along? It seemed pretty simple to me. My dad said that when he saw her movies in Iran, he knew he wanted to come to America, my cousin said. I looked at the poster. She was beautiful, but I couldn't understand coming to a whole new country for her. Did he know that she married Arthur Miller, I said. He knew everything about her. I wanted to ask her how come he didn't become a writer then, but I didn't. The truth was that I didn't understand how anybody didn't become a writer. Even before I found out about Marilyn Monroe and Arthur Miller. That did seal it, though. I didn't think my cousin knew why my family had come to America. It was because we had to, because my father had been in some political groups that meant it was hard for him to stay in Iran. I didn't think I should tell her that stuff. I didn't think I should tell her after the stuff about her father and Marilyn Monroe. I didn't know how two people could leave Iran for America so differently as my uncle and my father. But I guessed it was like the baseball players and the writers. It was just that I like to think that everybody in Iran wanted to be a writer. I wish I could tell everybody in Iran to just forget about American movies. I've been here, I would tell them. It's not like they try to show in the movies. Most of the beautiful women don't even know they should be marrying writers. Most of the people care a lot more about Joe DiMaggio than about Arthur Miller. But in that sense, the movies were an honest representation of America, at least. My cousin dreamed in movies, just like her father had done. I guess I did too when it came to Marilyn Monroe, but at least that was the dream of her real life. I hadn't seen any of her movies. The only person I knew who didn't dream in movies at all was my father. If I were to tell him that I was glad to find out that Marilyn Monroe had married Arthur Miller, he would say, "That's nice," and go back to thinking about the world. I liked that about him because I was beginning to suspect that there were bigger dreams to have, and I wanted to know what they were. I thought that those were the dreams that somebody who wanted to be a writer ought to have. So pretty soon after I found out that Marilyn Monroe had married Arthur Miller, I figured my job was to forget about the fact that Marilyn Monroe had married Arthur Miller. If a writer wanted to write something good enough that a beautiful woman like her would want to marry him, then he had to have bigger dreams. She was the last person he should be thinking of on the way there.